Even in the bad times, I'm always grateful because every single setback has always led to something better. When you just start to operate from that gratitude, man, it starts to unlock more of your human potential. We had more money than I was mentally conditioned to believe that we had. But it was more the mentality of the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and to treat anybody with money, a nice car, a nice house, some property, that should always be looked at with skepticism. I win the Bellator tournament, I make $100,000 in 3 fights, and I'm holding this big check with 5 zeros on it, and I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah. Money is not a bad thing. Financial literacy and financial freedom and having maybe more than you need is not a bad thing. You can bless so many other people with it, and that was the real experience and relationship that really changed my mind.
You said when you connect your gratitude with your why and what you do, the sky is the limit.
Yeah, man.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I get asked all the time, right? Because I'm known as the hardest working guy, everybody sees my workouts, how hard I go, how intense I am. So the question always arises, well, hey, how do you stay motivated? How are you so inspired? How do you find the gumption to wake up every single day, do it consistently, do it past your comfort zone, put in more work than everyone's willing to? And honestly, it just has so much to do with, and it took me a while to realize it, because at first I think it was insecurity, or it was striving to try to be what people thought I couldn't be. And then all of a sudden I realized, once I got to a certain point, it was all about being so grateful for the opportunity that I have. Mm-hmm. And realizing that God has given me some amazing gifts to be on a platform, to inspire, especially young men, to have a voice, to be looked at as somebody who is doing something, trying to do something bigger than he ever thought that he could do. And it all comes back to gratitude every single day. When you operate within gratitude, in the good times and the bad, because I've had a lot of bads, I got the scars to show it. Like, I've had a lot of bad times, but even in the bad times, I'm always grateful because every single setback has always led to something better that has been in store for me. And when you just start to operate from that gratitude, man, it starts to unlock more of your human potential.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I couldn't agree more. And I don't know what the show, if you knew what you're getting yourself into when you said yes to it.
I knew. I did my research.
But and that's kind of my mission, is to change the lives of 1 million people through financial literacy, and that's kind of the tool that I can deliver to people. And so everything I try to do, whether it's the book I wrote, the businesses that I built, this podcast, is to, like you said, create a platform to reach more people. And in doing that, I think the hardest thing, Michael, quite honestly, has been to change minds and mindsets, right? Mm-hmm. Because you talk to people and it's like, oh, I'm too poor, I'm too brown, I'm too black, I'm too lazy, I'm too this, I'm too that. And the truth is, they start to believe that stuff. And by believing that stuff, it gives them limiting beliefs, and it puts them in this cage of what I call becoming a second-class version of yourself, mm-hmm. right? And I think, looking at you, you grew up, it seems to me, maybe not poor, but no silver spoon for sure. No. And I know you talk a lot about your dad and your mom and what they've done for you. Can you tell me just a little bit about like how you grew up, some of the challenges, and how that formed you today as a man to get rid of those limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be quite honest, I've struggled with them my entire life. Mm-hmm. And if you look at where I'm at, the platform I've been given, the bright lights I've been under, the money I've made, mm-hmm. the friends I have, the millionaires, billionaires, and celebrities in my phone that I rub elbows with and spend time with, if you would have asked the 14-year-old me, the 13-year-old me, the middle school me that I would be here, he would have thought you were absolutely crazy. And actually, quite frankly, he would probably tell you that I was going to become a more evil version of myself. Like we said, it's like I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I didn't grow up poor, and I had some poor friends. We're talking dirt floor poor. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget some friends of mine who I wrestled with. They lived in a little house down by the river in High Ridge, Missouri, Cedar Hill, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And the front deck, the front porch was ripped off the house. And there was a 2x6 going from the ground over a ravine and into the house. That was their front porch. And then you walked into the kitchen and the floorboards were falling out. There was holes in the ground. I mean, I grew up around these type of people. So I'm not saying I lived like that, but I think more impactfully, unfortunately, is we had more money than I was mentally conditioned to believe that we had. Like we were doing fine. I had everything. We didn't have a lot, but I wasn't missing a dang thing. We had love, we had security, we had a roof over our head, we had clothes on our backs. But it was more the mentality of the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and to treat anybody with money, a nice car, a nice house, some property, climbing the rungs on the financial, the socioeconomic ladder, that should always be looked at with skepticism, you know? So even as this cognitive dissonance of all of a sudden I win the Bellator tournament, I make $100,000 in 3 fights, and I holding this big check with, 5 zeros on it, and I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm not supposed to be here, right? And you win the world title, and then more money comes, and then the bright lights come, and then all the admiration and adoration starts coming. And you think, well, wait a second, like this feels a little bit uncomfortable, and I self-sabotaged myself many times in college wrestling, and I've self-sabotaged myself in my fight career, because we're constantly battling the inner demons of that voice and that lie and that story that I've been told since I was a kid, that success and that amount of money or that amount of wealth or that amount of platform was reserved for other people, not for me, you know? And I think I got so mad at the way I grew up for a while, and I got so mad at myself that I always say I'm a little guy from a little town who was taught to do little things. I'm like, God, I hate that little guy. I want to kill him. I want to slay him. I want to get him out of my life, right? But he's also protected me, and he's also kept me humble, and he's also made me realize that so many hundreds of millions of people across the globe have that little guy or that little gal inside of them. And for me to talk about him and say, I still got him. I haven't been able to slay him, haven't been able to get rid of him, but I've gotten really good at duct taping him to the basement of my mind with a roll of duct tape around his mouth to quiet him. And I think that's a really good message for so many people, that if I can unlock my full potential, and I'm still working on it daily, if I can do it, so can you. So it's been a process, and here I am a couple decades in, and I'm still failing every single day, trying to fail forward.
Yeah. So you said just exactly what we're hitting on, that mindset. Okay. That's for the rich. Like, these people are going to have this, they're not going to have that. Who in your life broke that mental mindset for you? Was it your parents?
It wasn't. And I love my mom and dad, like we talked about. I always give them their flowers. I would not be sitting here today without Mike and Betty Chandler. My dad still to this day works with his big old brown work boots on, his Red Wing work boots, his white carpenter pants, and goes in and puts in his blue collar 40 every single week, right? And my mom has worked 2 and 3 jobs when we grew up to make sure that we had everything that we needed. And it was really funny. It wasn't until I went to college, left High Ridge, Missouri, left Jefferson County, Missouri, went and walked on to the University of Missouri. And it was my first time I was around people from other places than I was, right? And my across the hall dorm mates, a state champ from California, a very affluent family, came from money, probably on a full ride scholarship. But then his roommate was a adopted young man, because his mom and his dad were both gone and passed away by the time he was like 8 or 10 years old. And he ended up becoming one of my best friends, right? So you see that dichotomy between those two socioeconomic backgrounds, right? And then some other guys who were from different states with a ton of money, and then other states from not a lot of money, right? And you start to realize, okay, wait, we're all just here with one common goal. We're going to get in that wrestling room. We're going to get after it. And when you walk through the threshold of that wrestling room, it doesn't matter how much money you have, or what kind of car your dad drives, or what kind of law firm he runs, or what kind of doctor he is, or what kind of dad or mom on welfare that he is. We walk in here and none of that matters. We lace up our wrestling shoes and we go get after it, right? And that was when it started to open up my mind to all these different backgrounds that I was never really exposed to. And then most importantly was my Bible study leader, who was our orthopedic surgeon, our team doctor, a guy named Bus Tarbox. And we never really talked about money ever, but it was my lens by which I saw money. And I remember when I was younger, it was like, well, if you make a lot of money, you're probably a shrewd, get over on people, step over people type of individual. And then all of a sudden I realized that this was maybe the most loving man I'd ever been around in my entire life. The greatest father, the greatest husband, servant to the community, leading Bible studies. And every single, I think it was Tuesday nights, we would go over to his house for Bible study, and he'd already be at the table doing his homework with his 2 daughters, and just led with love. And he was such an amazing human being. And I'm like, wait a second, like this guy's got money. He owns his own orthopedic practice. I see it right across the highway over there, and it's got his name on it, and it's got all this stuff. It's like, he's got money. He's got means. He drives a nice vehicle, and he's got this nice big beautiful house in this very prestigious neighborhood in Columbia, Missouri. Isn't he supposed to be the enemy? Isn't he supposed to be the guy that I would need to watch out for? Yet he just accepted us all with open arms. And that was probably the moment, the relationship, the experience that really started to change my mind. And I thought, well, shoot, how much more can I impact people and eventually someday love my wife and eventually someday love my children and eventually be a light to this entire world if I operate that money is not a bad thing. Finances and financial literacy and financial freedom and having maybe more than you need is not a bad thing, because by having more than you need, you can bless so many other people with it, you know. And that was the real experience and relationship that really changed my mind.
It's a great point, man, because I think sometimes we demonize people that are wealthy, especially if you come from an inner city or somewhere where you're looking at the poverty that's around you and you feel entrapped by it. But, you know, the same thing, I grew up super poor. I got into this industry by the grace of God, and I got exposed to things that I was never exposed to before and started realizing, just like you, like there are some good people out there and they have 2 arms and legs just like me. And hey, if I put in the work, potentially I could achieve these things as well, which is super important. And I think, you know, for me, it was a police officer. For you, it was this gentleman that led your Bible study. I think the sad thing is that some people just don't ever come to a point in their life where someone gives them that olive branch that says, for me, it was just someone just saying, hey, you're hanging around these shit bags. You need to get out of here. You're better than that. And as small as that seems, for me, it was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And for you as this person, that's what we try to do, is just with this show, is bring that hope to people, bring that knowledge to people, because, you know, the show's called The American Capitalist and people are like, oh, it's just about money. That's not really what it is, right? To your point, I think, you know, money is something, it magnifies. If you're a piece of shit, you're going to be a bigger piece of shit. If you're a good person, you're going to be a good person. And capitalism, to me, works when everyone can participate in it. And the problem is most people just don't know how to participate in it.